What is going on, warriors? Welcome back to another episode of EU4 for Noobs. And guys, as I always say, we are going to continue discussing the military side of the game. Now, we actually were discussing a lot of the military side in the last episode, and we actually discussed all of these different buttons. Oh yeah, look, now I can actually show you what scorched does. We were discussing all these different buttons and every little part of the military window, the army window, and so this time what I plan to do is show you the navy window, okay, which there's going to be a lot of the same stuff, but, I mean, same basic stuff, but then also there's some other stuff that you may not know. So we're going to be discussing that, and then also the actual military tab of this little, I don't know, statistics type thing that has all of your country's information from the economy to trade to technology. I don't know what to call this. Anyway, the military tab is one of the things we're going to be discussing, but first I want to show you what scorched does. So as you can see, you can spend 5 military power, and it just, it increases devastation by 5, and then it gives you, yeah, like, so that plus 5 devastation, that's showing you that's what the devastation by itself would do. But then also it decreases hostile movement speed. Okay, only hostile movement speed by 50% for 60 months, which is 5 years. So 5 military power for 5 years. But you got to remember that is per province. Okay, so it's not actually the full area or state. It's per province. So if you're like leaving a lot of scorched earth provinces, then, you know, it's going to take a lot of military power. It's going to be very military power intensive. That being said, let's take a look at the the navies, okay? So I'm actually going to click on this one. These guys are just roaming around Safi, okay? And these guys are probably protected because we are at war, but we're at war with people that are like way over here. And the Ottoman Navy is also kind of like protecting us a little bit because they have a lot of galleys and stuff. So, and actually the Ottomans are probably going to do quite well in this war. If we're really lucky, they might give us some territory from Naples, but we'll see. Wait, actually, I think I'll go over this, like, I'll go over this probably in a later episode, but these are like provinces of vital interest that I'm setting, and yeah. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just basically telling the AI that I want those provinces. Okay, so let's take a look at this fleet that was patrolling around Safi. All right. So we're gonna let the game run while we look at it. And so as you can see, these. There are a lot of things that are the same as the Army window, okay? The Navy window. You got like the one Navies thing that, you know, if you select multiple Navies, then it's going to say 2 Navies, and then you're going to have the X buttons and what, and, you know, everything like that. The next thing is you see that there is a leader. For example, on this one, Tomás Gómez. You can see that it has a leader, and it's an admiral. It's a general when it's on an army, but it's an admiral if it's on a navy. Okay, but this one has no leader. It's just kind of patrolling without a leader. Then you can see that it has 0 heavy ships, 7 trade ships, or it's actually, they're called light ships. Oh, and we're losing sieges because that's all in like Burgundy and stuff, and I don't really care too much about that territory, so we're just gonna let it go. Anyway, we got the light ships, and then we've got galleys, and we've got transports, okay? And then it says 7 right here, and what that means, it says due to the amount of cannons in the fleet, the positioning can never be above 99%. Oh, my trade fleet actually engaged in combat. Okay. Well, there you go. Oh! The Protestant Reformation happened. Alright, thoughts of disapproval against the Roman Catholic Church are spreading across Europe as a result of the increasing corruption of monks and clerics. Voices are raised questioning the current principles and greed of the Church. A monk in Aachen has for some time expressed deep concerns and is now openly declaring his discontent with the church, paving the way towards a reformation of the faith. So now it is actually possible for countries to become Protestant. Okay, and as you can see, when you click OK, see Protestant is now enabled. The religion in Aachen, which is this province here, changes to Protestant, and then Aachen becomes the center of Reformation, which I'll explain later. And then that province actually gets religious zeal for how long? For like 25 years. And what that means is that you cannot convert it back. You cannot convert it back to Catholic for 25 years. At least. So, yeah, we'll explain that later. Anyway, we're talking about the fleets. So next you've got, instead of detaching a siege, you can actually detach a blockade. Okay, and these blockades here. Okay, this navy is able to fully blockade adjacent port provinces with a total development of 41. All right, and the reason for that is that you've got sail speed. And then it's also modified by your Navy tradition. See, we have 78 naval tradition, and as you can see, the current effect, that's blockade efficiency plus 78%. And as for the sail speed, we can actually see speed, and it's 10 per light ship, and we have 7 light ships. Actually, I'm not completely sure why the sail speed is only 27 or 23. I don't know. Perhaps it's modified by something else. Anyway, I don't know. Anyway, the point is they're telling you that this fleet can actually blockade a pretty good sized development province, right? A total development of 41 if it's only adjacent to one province. Now, if you go over here, then it's not only going to be blockading Salerno, for example, it's also going to be trying to blockade the other provinces with a port in that sea province. Now, you can see the little port graphic right there if you're not sure where the port is. For Cosenza, it actually would not blockade that because the port is actually adjacent to this sea province. So, but if you go to the Gulf of Taranto, which is this sea province, then it would blockade both of these provinces. So you need to actually have a blockade rating on your fleet of at least 10, because if it's less than 10, then it will not blockade both of these provinces, and you can't actually control which one it does. I think it just goes for lowest first, and if they're both the same, I have no idea what it chooses. So you can't actually choose which one it will go for. So that's just kind of like, that's blockading. And if a province is blockaded, there are some negative modifiers like to the trade and stuff like that. Let me see here. Aragon is actually not blockading, but I wish I could see like what the actual modifiers are. You see, now when a province is blockaded, now you can see because the Ottomans are blockaded. See, Venice is blockading it. You'll see this little extra outline around those coastal provinces. Do you guys see this? And this is actually the color of Venice, and it's like spiky or like hairy or something. It looks hairy, and it's just this outline indicating that these provinces are blockaded. Now, I believe there's got to be some way to tell the okay. So blockaded for just first of all, it okay. First of all, it increases devastation by 0.1 every month. However, it's not increasing in Salonik because there's a fort there. But in Edirne... No, not in Edirne. Terhala, maybe? Which is Thessaly. Oh, no, it's also under the control of a friendly fort, so it's not being affected. Maybe this one is? Oh, it's not being blockaded because the port is here. Anyway, there are some bad modifiers. Maybe you could see it in trade power. Yeah, trade power gets reduced by 75%, which is pretty crazy. Trade value is unaffected. Goods produced is reduced by 50%. Sorry, goods produced efficiency. Okay, not goods produced. Are there any other modifiers? Perhaps local autonomy? No. No. Okay, so all I'm seeing is like the trade power, goods produced, and devastation, but I thought there were other modifiers. No unrest. Yeah, I actually have no idea what the other modifiers to the province are. But anyway, blockading is bad, okay? So you don't... It was bad if somebody else is blockading you. So, you know, don't let people do that. Okay. So there's that. There's the blockades. Then we've got the split in half. That's the same as the army. We've got detached blockade, which is like detached siege. Alright? And then repair damaged ships. Now, this is instead of attaching troops to ships. Like, with the army, it's like attach to transports. Oh, 40 of each power type. That's cool. Okay. Then you've got conform to template, which I've already explained in the previous episode. Alright, then you can see where they are and where they're going. You can see the attrition, and you can see how it gets to that number. So by the way, guys, if you ever see a number and you don't quite understand what it is, roll your mouse over it, because it will tell you how it arrives at that number. Like, for example, it says, like, 41 for this development. And it says the way that it arrives at it is that its sail speed is 23, and then your Navy tradition is plus 77.5%, so you calculate that, and it comes out to 41. Oh, 5 prestige. Oh, wait, this is one of the Women in History events. Well, morale of armies plus 5% is good. 5 prestige is also good. Just in case we get in a fight, let's do that. Morale of armies. Okay, so then you've got, of course, the 4 types of ships. You can click on the plus button to add different kinds of ships to that particular fleet. And then you've got the individual listing of ships. All right, so and then whatever the maintenance is, how many sailors that each ship has. And in the case of lights, each one requires 50 sailors. Okay, so there's that. It'll tell you how many sailors it actually has. And then, as well as other things, so cannons is how much damage the ship will do in combat. Hull size is the amount of damage that it can take, and the speed is obviously how fast it moves. Light ships also have power, trade power. Now, not all ships have trade power. It's actually only light ships, and they will like add trade power to a trade node in your favor when they're protecting trade. Okay, cool, advisor. Yeah, so you can scroll down there. You can also rename everything. You can rename just one ship, or you can rename the entire fleet if you want. Of course, it's up to you. Okay, we're getting so many events. Alright, then we've got allow friendly fleets to attach to this fleet. That's the same thing as attaching armies, whatever. And then you've got this button that's actually very useful. During war, we'll go to a friendly port. Any mission will resume when the war ends. So, if you've got a small trade fleet, and you have the possibility of going to war with someone who has a huge trade fleet, then you can click this, or not even a huge trade fleet, but like a very powerful navy. Then you can click this, and then your trade fleet would, or any fleet actually, will just go in and they will just dock up and stay safe until the end of that war. And if they get forced out because of a siege, because like let's say they dock up in Cadiz and then the enemy takes Cadiz, then that's going to force the navy out, but then they'll find another port that they can go into and just try to stay safe. And I think they will also use allied ports. Also, the Ottomans have won against Austria. And also, I got some money from that peace deal because Aragon has been doing work for me. Aragon's been doing all the work for me, and I just get the spoils of war. Also, we can take a thing for state firearm regiments. Yeah, I think we want to do that. Yeah, so now we're going to get extra army drill. Okay, next we've got attach. Okay, this is like on the other end. It's same with army. Create new unit. Okay, same thing with army. Detach obsolete ships. Okay, so as you increase your level of diplomatic technology, do you see at diplomatic technology level 9, it will give us a new heavy ship. Okay, so we're going to go from the Early Carrack to the Carrack. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. We're going to go from the Bark to the Caravel. Now, you can actually upgrade your ships, and it is possible to have a partially up-to-date fleet with like the rest of the ships not being up to date. Also, should we go take this fight and like help Aragon? I think it decreases their liberty desire because it increases their opinion of us. But they do already have 200 opinion and only 1% liberty desire, so that's not that bad actually. Wow, okay. I could siphon their income. Jeez. I don't want them to do that. I could make them embargo my rivals. I might be alright with that. Alright, let's actually attach these. Now, those regiments that we're training, they actually have 70% army drill, which means they're going to get, you know, good combat modifiers. And Aragon has already taken that fight. Well, there you go. Aragon coming to save the day again. Alright. So then what you can do then is basically with the detaching obsolete ships is you can have the up-to-date ships go and continue fighting or continue protecting trade or whatever, but then you can hold on one second. Oh, trade company investments. Yeah, I know all that stuff. Let's actually increase. Oh, we have to increase military development. Okay. I mean, for 8 more years, though? Jeez. Alright, I'm going to take one of each kind of idea. The missionary strength is going to be really good. Once we eventually start conquering territory that has a different religion. And also, once we eventually start getting, like... Once we eventually start getting the Protestant Reformation stuff going on. Yeah. Oh, and there's another center of Reformation. Or is it? Maybe not. Maybe I was wrong. Okay. Then the next button. Yeah, so you can detach the obsolete ships, and then you can have like the up-to-date ships go and do their thing, and then the obsolete ones can go back and you can put them in port, and then you can upgrade them. Disable automatic transportation. That is where if you have transports, then you can actually do this thing where they will like automatically transport troops. So if I click on this and then I just want to transport them here, it says, "Are you sure you want to move this army and cancel drilling it?" Yeah. Well, it will actually ask me if I want to automatically transport them. And then I don't need to manually attach them to my transport ships and just take them over in several trips. That needs to be a free feature, and I don't know why they locked that behind Art of War. I think that was a controversial decision, but that is a fantastic feature. Anyway, you can actually disable certain fleets for that feature if you don't want to use that particular fleet for automatic transportation. Okay, then you can also click this. When the ships are in port, you can click upgrade ships and you can spend the money, and then they go down to 1%. So if they get hit while they're at 1%, then of course they just get destroyed. And that way you don't have to like build new ships and then destroy your old ones. You can just upgrade the ones that you already have. Now, this is allow allies to board. This is where your fleets... Oh, this war's over. The Ottomans have fully annexed Albania. And they got Athens, Naxos, and Epirus from Venice. There you go. Alright, well, the Ottomans have gotten a lot more power. Yeah, they've taken a lot of power away from Venice, and they've fully annexed Albania, so that's good for them. And yeah, a lot of casualties on that side. I only lost 160 infantry in combat. That's it. Aragon lost 9.6 thousand. I can't believe that. I like barely lost anything. Anyway, but the Ottomans likes me now because I actually participated in their war and everything. Honored Alliance +5. Do you see that opinion? All right. Let's go back to the fleet. Okay, so you can actually use your fleets to transport your allies' troops. Now, this mainly only works in multiplayer when you're trying to help out another player. but you can just click that, and then another player can move their troops onto your fleet via the sea zone, and then, you know, it will actually, you can transport them for your friend, which is very cool. The next one is Raid Coast. Now, not everybody can actually do this, but if you look at Tlemcen, for example, you look at their ideas, it says Berber traditions may raid coasts. Now, what that means is when you do it, when you raid the coasts, you actually deplete all of the loot. I believe you get all of that money. Okay, I believe you get that amount of ducats, and you just like loot the province. They have to be of a different religion, I believe. And then also you get this modifier here, raided coasts, and which means that you cannot raid it again for a certain amount of time. See, so somebody raided this particular province a long time ago, so they can't raid it again until 1499, which is next month. Dang it, man. This guy would be good. He's not that expensive. Oh, but I'm also not making a lot of money. I'm losing quite a bit of money. We'll see how we can take control of our economy. Just, oh yeah, it's the fort maintenance, guys. That's what it is. Now let's just mothball all these forts. I really don't care about them. Now we're making money again. Cool. And the Advancement of Religion Act. More missionary strength. Got it. Okay, once again, back to the fleet menu. Alright, and then we've got mothball. Mothballing is the same thing as forts, where you only pay half of the cost for this particular fleet. But, you know, you only pay half of the maintenance, but then it's going to actually sink down in durability, and it also, I think the morale goes down to like 0.5, which is the minimum. And then the actual durability of the ship, what is it called? The percentage of you know, the damage indicator, that will slowly tick down to, okay. The percent will actually tick down to 25%. Okay, and so you actually need to reinforce that when you're done mothballing it. Then we've got start patrolling. Okay, so you can just like choose that in one province one sea province that the fleet is in, and then choose another province, and then it will just patrol between those two provinces. I don't ever use that, but I suppose I can see why it might be useful for others. Evade enemy fleets is where, actually this is a good feature. I never used this, and I actually forgot about this feature, but it's a feature. It's where you just choose where to go, and you just kind of like turn this on, and it will evade enemy fleets. But we're going to have it continue protecting trade in Safi. Okay, and then the missions, alright? The missions are where, you know, you can protect trade, adding trade power. You can privateer, which is sort of like where you try to steal trade power from others, from other countries. Hunt pirates is where you try to reduce the power of pirates, privateers, in your own trade nodes. Explore, we've already gone over. Hunt enemy fleets is where they just try to destroy the enemy ships. Blockade enemy ports is just where they try to blockade as much as possible, just try and cause as much damage as possible. Yeah, so that's what that does. And then intercept enemy fleets is kind of the same as hunt enemy fleets, but it's got to focus on transports. So it's trying to focus on fleets that are carrying armies, and you do that. Then you've got the mission settings, and that is the last button here. And the mission settings are where you can see the repair threshold. If you want them to repair often, then you could just go on slightly damaged or any damage. I'm just going to go to slightly damaged. But then you can also go to default and severely damaged, and then to never repair. You could just tell them to never repair. But we're not going to do that. And then for the aggressiveness, you can have them at cautious, which is default, or bold. We're going to keep them at cautious because this is just kind of like a small trade fleet. It can't really take on very many fleets, or it can't take on very many ships at a time. We're going to say, hey, you know, mostly stay out of trouble, repair kind of often, just, you know, do what you got to do. Okay, so that was the fleet menu, or the fleet window. We've gone over all that finally, all right? We're going to very quickly go over the military window since we have a little bit of extra time in this episode. So the army professionalism, You get new abilities at every 20%, and as well as that, you also get a sliding modifier on the cost of mercenaries. It's actually, I think, let me see, army professionalism. I think the cost of mercenaries ends up going up the more army professionalism that you have. But then, and also you get less available mercenaries, but as you get more and more army professionalism, you get more siege ability, and also we're maxed out on military power. And then you also get more land fire damage and shock damage. Okay. Let's choose a new rival. How about Austria is good. And we also have to develop our military. Okay. Alright, so there's that. And then you also get, at every 20%, you get another ability. So this one is to build supply depots. At 40%, you get to refill the garrison. At 60%, when you disband an army, you actually regain that manpower, which is really good. I think that's the most powerful thing. And then at 80%, then... Now this is reduced morale damage taken by reserves. I can't remember what reserves actually are, so I don't exactly remember what that is. And then finally, at 100%, you get general cost minus 50%. So instead of costing 50 military power, it only costs 25 as a base. And then also, you get army drill gain modifier plus 100%. So it doubles the drill that you gain when you're drilling. And these guys are at almost 100%. Okay, so there's that. Then you've got the units, and I suppose we can go over units in another episode, but it just basically, like in all the pips, but just describes, how much do they cost, the extra combat ability that they have, the modifiers, which we'll go over. Then you've got the naval units, so you can actually select a naval doctrine. It's kind of hard to see this button, and it's like, at first glance, it doesn't even look like a button, but anyway, you can click on that, you can select your naval doctrine, and basically just different effects for your navy, depending on what you want to actually use your navy for. What I have it set on now is just fleet and being, which is a general, just reduce the naval maintenance, but if you want to focus on your ship trade power, then you would go to merchant navy and so on. Okay, same thing with navies, it shows you how many cannons and what the hull size is and everything like that. Then you've got the military tactics, which, again, I've mentioned is sort of the defensive version of discipline. You've got army tradition. Now, this will affect your generals, as well as giving you a sliding scale of modifiers, okay? Because you've got morale of armies, but then also got manpower recovery speed, recover army morale speed, and siege ability. And that all scales up, okay? Yeah, spend that money. Okay, and then also at 20%, 40%, 60%, 80%, and 100% army tradition, you also get like extra chances for more pips on your generals. So, and I've talked about the pips on the generals before a little bit, but I'll go over it in a little bit more detail. I don't, 100% understand exactly what they mean. I just know that more is better. But I'll go over them later. Then you've got discipline, all right? This is going to be your total discipline. With the base plus the modifiers. The base is always 100, but then you've also got other modifiers that go on top of it. Okay, then you've got the total morale of armies. This is a number, and it will tell you, again, if you don't understand the number, then roll over it with your mouse, and the game will tell you how it got to that number, how it arrived at that, and how it calculated it. So we can see that, we got the Spanish traditions, the power projection, army tradition, all of that stuff, and it all adds up to 4.09. It's a total increase of like 33%, which is really good. Then you've got the fort defense, all right? Then you got your force limit. Now, that is kind of like how big you can build your army, and I think I've talked a little bit about it before, but it's a soft cap, so you can go over it, but then the troops start getting exponentially more expensive as you do that. You've got cavalry to infantry ratio, so at most, you can have 50% of an army being cavalry and 50% being infantry. This is not the same for every country, because some countries can have more, but the base is 50%, and if you have more than your cavalry to infantry ratio, then those extra cavalry have insufficient support, which is a modifier that like makes them do half damage or something like that. It's really bad. Anyway, then you've got naval tradition, which is increased when you protect trade with trade fleets. Okay, and then it increases your morale of navies, sailor recovery speed, blockade efficiency, trade steering, navy morale recovery speed, and privateer efficiency. So a lot of good things that you get, all by basically just protecting trade. Okay, then you've got your combat width. So that is basically how many troops can actually engage an enemy army at one time. When a battle is started, they use the combat width of the country that has the highest. Okay, so if you have 18, for example, if you have 18, the enemy has 24, you're going to use 24. Okay, my general gained a fire pip. That's cool. Yeah, then you've got morale of navies, same thing as a morale of armies. You know, no needed, no added explanation required. You got siege ability, which of course increases the speed of your sieges. You've got your naval force limit, which I don't need to explain again. You've got how many of your forts are actually active. In our case, we only have 3 forts active because it's just these 3 in our mainland, but we've got 5 forts over here that we can't actually afford to maintain. Then we've got ship durability, which is just basically a direct increase in the amount of health that your ships have, basically. Then you've got a button to mothball all forts. Okay, and then a button to activate all the forts, so unmothball them. And also a checkbox where when somebody declares war on you, or if you declare war on somebody, then it will automatically unmothball your forts, all of them. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind, and I like to leave it checked, because that way I could just manually go in and mothball the ones I don't need. Also, the Ottomans are at war. And then finally, we've got this slacken recruiting standards, which is where if you really need manpower, you can reduce your army professionalism by 5, and then you can gain a whole bunch of manpower. In our case, it's almost 9,000. And then for the last thing on this window, we've just got to recruit a general, 50 military power, recruit a conquistador, again, 50 military power, but they have fewer pips. Conquistadors actually have 80% of the pips. As you can see, a general will have between 2 and 8 pips as base. Conquistador will have between 2 and 7. Okay, so you could just see that, you know, they have less in general. Alright, oh, get it, in general. Alright, and then we've got the Admiral and the Explorer. Same thing, Explorers have 80% of the pips. And then we actually have the ability to make our Monarch into a General. The only thing is, if you have a female monarch, you cannot make her into a general because female rulers cannot become generals. You know, they have an increased chance of dying, but if you don't have a lot of military power, then you can just make it, you know. You just make your monarch a general. And the last thing is making an heir a general, and that is same thing. Now, we do have a male heir, so we can actually make our heir a general. Anyways, guys, I'm going to end the episode right here because we have gone on for a long time trying to explain everything. In the next episode, we'll probably try to talk about centers of reformation and other things like that. Anyway, I want to thank everyone so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, subscribe, and join the Discord server because it helps out so much. Thank you so much to Shem for being my Patreon supporter. If you'd like to support me on Patreon, then please feel free to click the link down in the description below because that helps a ton and it helps me get toward, you know, buying a new computer. So anyways, I want to thank you once again so much for watching, and I will see you next time.